Hey everyone, and happy Valentine's Day. I'm Tami, the creator of the blog and this YouTube channel called Nutmeg Notebook. So we're so happy that you could join us today on Valentine's Day. My Valentine is here with me. You gonna say hi?
I'll say hello real quick and then I gotta go finish my sound and lip sync checks.
Okay.
I'll talk to you guys later.
So he's busy. That's Tom. He is the cameraman and the genius behind all these cameras and all the lights and equipment. So we're super excited to be here today with everyone. If you have questions, we will be doing a Q&A all about plant-based at the end. We have a little presentation that we want to do first, but if you have questions, you can put them in the chat feed, and if you would preface those with 4 question marks, then your question, and then end with 4 question marks. That just helps my Valentine search out and find those questions. And we have our moderators are in the chat feed. So we thank you, Jesse, Randy, and Tiffany, for being here, moderating, and they've been with us for a long time, and they know pretty much everything that we know and some things we don't. And so they can be very helpful answering your questions and helping you as well in the chat feed. So, speaking of Randy, Tiffany, and Jesse, they did something extra special for us. They purchased the Plant Strong and the Chef's Garden Mystery Valentine's Dinner package for us. And so you may have seen the video that we posted earlier in the week when our box of amazing, beautiful produce came. We did an unboxing of it, and then yesterday I was able to cook along with Chef Jamie and Rip Eppleston on video and make us this delicious plant-based SOS-free gourmet 4-course Valentine's dinner. And we knew today was going to be rather busy, and so we chose to make the meal yesterday. And Tom was busy working, and so he couldn't videotape it. So I did document it by taking pictures of pretty much every step. And we want to share that with you. So we've put together a little presentation so that you can see what it's like. So we thank you guys so much, Tiffany, Randy, and Jesse, for such a gracious gift. It was a pure delight. I spent about 3 hours cooking the meal yesterday. It was so much fun. I learned some new cooking techniques, and I am just so excited to be able to share those with you guys and to implement them into my recipes in the future. So it was an absolute delight for me yesterday to do the cook along and then to share the meal with Tom. It was amazing. Every dish was like perfection. And so thank you ladies so much. That was such a treat. And Tom said it was the best meal we've had since we went on the cruise a year ago, actually, this month. And so, and he's right, because we haven't been that fancy, I guess.
Well, we went into the formal dining room. We had
did.
our special juice in the fancy glasses.
We did.
I noticed
we dressed up.
You got out the good plates with the ruffled edges.
The nice silverware.
So, yeah. Oh, she got the good silverware out. It was so uptown. Yeah.
Yeah. We listened to beautiful music.
That's only for when company comes, and I guess I was company.
You were company, honey.
Yeah.
You were company. So anyway, so we'll do the little presentation, share our wonderful meal with you,
and then we'll come back and catch.
And then we'll come back and we'll do Q&A. But before we do that, I have to show you guys our little sweet grandchildren made us these for Valentine's Day, and I had them on the refrigerator, and Tom made me take them down for the video because he said they were messing with the lights. But are these super cute? They painted them. And I think they did a great job for 2.5-year-olds and a 4-year-old. So anyway, that just made our day extra special. And we did get to go on a hike with them this morning. And so that was really fun too. They got these really cool magnifying glasses and we, went on a hike and found all kinds of bugs and spiders. And
they looked indestructible, so they should be okay.
Yeah, and what else? Little centipedes
Lizards,
and lizards.
Giant spiders.
Yeah.
Giant millipedes. I mean, the ones that are like the size of your little finger. It was like we were on a safari.
Yeah, it was so cool. And they are not afraid of anything, which is so fantastic. So anyway, let's get started. Let's share with them about this wonderful meal. So Tom is going to take charge of showing you the photos, and I'm going to talk to you about that.
You'll still be on screen here, though, as soon as I turn it on.
Okay. And so will I be in the screen up in the corner?
Yeah, you're
perfect.
there now. And so this is just the title slide. We shouldn't spend too much time on it.
Let's pass on past that, because there's more fun stuff to look at than that. Okay, so here's where it started, you guys. So the box of everything came. That is only about a third, that white bowl with the lettuce, that's only about a third of the amount of lettuce that they sent, because they sent us enough that we could have multiple salads out of that. So this was all the produce that they sent. And let's go to the next slide. And then this was the menu. The first course was caramelized parsnip soup with micro watercress. The second course, a naked winter salad with poached beets and beet blush. The third course is carrot pot roast with braised kale.
I don't know if you're putting enough...
You want more emphasis?
Yeah. I don't know if it's Our first course tonight is caramelized parsnip soup with micro wintercress. Second course, naked winter salad with poached beets and beet blush. Our third course tonight will be carrot pot roast with braised kale. And for our fourth course, we're going to top everything off with a delectable sweet potato mazamorra with maple, mint, and edible flowers. The edible flowers were beautiful. Tami, back to you.
Thank you, darling. Next slide.
Okay, I'll get back to slides.
Get back to the slides, kiddo.
And a different button to push here.
Okay, and this was put together with Rip Esselstyn from Plant Strong, Engine 2, and the Chef's Garden, and Chef Jamie specifically from the Chef's Garden. And so this was the beautiful lettuces that they sent, and there was all different kinds of incredible greens in there. This is all different types of kale, and we ended up sauteing that to go with the main entree. And the beautiful flowers and the fresh herbs, and just everything was so fresh and so delicious.
Got it. Tiffany, the flowers, we ate them. And they're gone.
Why are you? Oh, because she loves flowers.
She's a bit of a flower child.
She is. But we did eat them, and they were delicious.
Okay, back to flowers.
Okay. So next, let's go to the next.
Aren't those beautiful flowers over there on the right?
Oh my gosh, they were so amazing. You'll get to see what we did with those in just a little bit.
Now these root vegetables were beautiful too.
They were. So gorgeous carrots and beets and sweet potatoes and regular potatoes, and everything was just gorgeous, and the flavor was like totally amazing, like better than the stuff that I buy at the grocery store, of course.
Yeah, Brian, Jessica, here's that meal you were talking about that Tami. We haven't gotten to cooking it yet.
Yeah, and so it came with all the recipe cards and beautiful photos and nice instructions. But in addition to that, on Saturday, they had videos available so that we could go in and watch specific videos for each course to learn how to make them.
There's a question from Gina. She's wondering what company...
Yeah,
so it's a little bit of a trail on how this got here.
So this was offered, and Randy and Jesse and Tiffany can probably offer more information because they ordered it for us and had it sent to us. So it was Rip Esselstyn from Plant Strong. Remember, he wrote the Engine 2 books and had the Engine 2 products that were sold at Whole Foods And now they had a 10-year contract with Whole Foods, and now their products are going to be available nationwide in various grocery stores. So Rip Esselstyn, he is the son of Dr. Esselstyn, who has the How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease book. And so he's plant-based as well. And so Rip Esselstyn and Plant Strong partnered with the Chef's Garden and put together this whole meal, complete with videos. So Rip Esselstyn and Chef Jamie from the Chef's Garden, they did videos cooking all the different courses. And so you ordered the meal and they sent you a box of produce and provided you with all of the recipes for...
And then that'll kind of pick up with what you're getting into
next. Yeah.
So let's go to the next, let's get to the next slide here. And...
we've got to get past this one.
Okay,
so then they also, when the box of produce came, then I also got this list of pantry items that I needed to provide, which were very simple, basic ingredients. So almond milk, maple syrup, and instead of maple syrup, I chose to use date syrup, cornstarch, a little bit of hot sauce, salt if you wanted it, balsamic vinegar, and some flour. And I'm gluten-free, so I used oat flour. And another thing that was amazing is how simple the ingredients were, but yet everything tasted gourmet. So this went into the salad, and this is called beet blush. And these are grown in the dark, but look how beautiful
they were so
they
good.
are. They were very good. They were just gorgeous. I mean, the produce was absolutely amazing. So... and then these were the beets. So people got different types of beets. There were, like some people got the golden beets and some got red. And the middle one looked kind of like a candy cane when we cut it.
Yeah, it was kind of almost a cross between a beet and a sweet radish.
Yeah.
It was kind of tangy and not so beety, but not radishy either. It was somewhere wonderfully in between.
They were delicious. So all I had to do was scrub them really good and put them in some water and bring it to a boil and then let them simmer for about 40 minutes until they were fork tender. And then I took them out and the skin just slid off, and then we just cut them up and put them over the greens. So that was really simple. And so there you can see it. It was just absolutely beautiful. And they had, as an option, they had the 3-2-1, the Engine 2 salad dressing. But we didn't use that. I'll show you what we used later. And then besides the greens, they had little...
They even sent these...
they can't see it.
I need to get on this camera. They sent these menu cards that described each ingredient and the ingredients and the directions on the back. Tammy probably showed you these, but
and told you what everything was, so that if you were unfamiliar what everything was, then you had this nice little guide to let you know, because the things that came in the box were not marked. They didn't say on them what they were.
For a for a cook it yourself dinner, it was a 5-star delivery.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Okay, where are we going next?
And I love to cook. So for me, this was so much fun. And even if you didn't have a lot of cooking experience, you absolutely could make this meal because you had the video to watch, plus you had all the instructions written out for you. It could not have been easier.
Let's let the cooking begin.
Okay, so this was parsnips, and I love parsnips. They are a root vegetable, and they are more sweet than, let's say, a carrot, and one of the techniques that I learned was to caramelize everything in cast iron skillets. And the reason you had to use a cast iron skillet is because you were using a very high heat. And so none of the nonstick cookware can be used with high heat. And so Tom had two old cast iron skillets that are well seasoned, and so you don't add any oil. I did not add any liquid to them at all. I just put them on my stovetop and turned on the heat and let them get good and hot. And then, can you show us those parsnips again, Tom? And then put the parsnips in the hot pan so that they would start to get brown and caramelize. And so what that does is it brings all of the sugars to the surface and makes them even more sweet, intensifies the flavor. And so we were caramelizing them, but not completely cooking them in the pot. And so then they got added to a pot with some water, not water, some almond milk, and they finished cooking in the almond milk. And then they got blended up and turned into an absolutely scrumptious soup, which we'll show you.
Oh, this is the result of that?
Yes.
Of that.
Show them that.
Okay.
It was probably one of the best soups I have ever made. Now, and you could decide how thick you wanted it. So you could add more. I used almond milk, and I used the Joy almond milk, the JOI, the one that comes in a can where you mix it with water. And I used it because it has a little bit higher fat content than like the almond milk that you buy at the store in a carton. And it has just a more intense flavor. And so we liked it thick the way it came out. I know that on the video, Chef Jamie said that he prefers it to be more liquidy, and Rip Esselstyn said that he preferred it to be thick, and we preferred it to be thick. And then on top of it are little microgreens, and that was watercress, which it just had a lovely flavor to it. So
all that char that was on from the cooking, that got all blended up and turned into like seasoning. And yes. I can see on my YouTube screen here the
little bit of
all
black
the little
specks.
Black specks in there that look like pepper, but that was that went into the flavor of it.
It did, and it just was incredible. And so here it is, and you could have added salt to it if you wanted to, and you could have added maple syrup to it, but we didn't add salt and we didn't add maple syrup to it. So really, it was just parsnips and unsweetened almond milk. So it was like 2.5 cups of parsnips and a pound of parsnips and 2.5 cups of unsweetened almond milk. And it was the most amazing, delicious soup ever. So I think when I make it the next time, I'm going to add a little bit of fresh nutmeg to it, because I just think the nutmeg would go perfect with it. But I wanted to make it the way they had it. Of
course you have to put nutmeg on it.
Of course I do. So, and Chef Jamie said you can do the same thing with carrots. But even people who don't like parsnips like this soup. So Rip Esselstyn said that he didn't particularly care for parsnips, and he was blown away by the soup. The soup was amazing. So I think you could take a lot of different root vegetables and create that same soup. And Tom said it was so rich tasting that it almost tasted like dessert. I was like, oh no, you wait till dessert. Dessert's coming. Okay, so the main entree was carrot pot roast with braised kale. And again, we were utilizing, caramelizing everything in the skillets. And Chef Jamie said if you didn't have cast iron skillets to use that were well seasoned, because of course we didn't want to add any oil to it, then you could use your nonstick pan, but you know, you'd have to use a low heat. Or he said if you have a griddle or a grill, you could use that instead in order to you wanted to kind of char the vegetables a little bit. And so it made them so delicious. I mean, this is such a great technique because, I mean, we didn't use a whole lot of seasonings in these meals, but just doing this technique just made an incredible difference in the amount of flavor that they had. So if you don't have cast iron skillet,
made me feel good because we haven't had the cast iron skillets up really pretty much since we went plant-based.
Yeah, we just haven't, because normally you have to
that
use...
was part of my standard American diet breakfast routine.
Yeah. So the trick I found with using it was getting those pans really hot before I put the root vegetables in the pan, and then not trying to move them around. Let them get a little bit of char going, and then I moved them. And rolled them over, flipped them over, so that they would get char on everything.
Do you know, just from what you've seen online, because there's a question here, if somebody wanted to go to Plant Strong and get these, can they go to the Plant Strong site and purchase these recipes? Or
I don't know. That is a very good question.
Go to the Plant Strong website, Kathleen. So yeah, because these were purchased, the recipes that came in the kit. So
I don't know. I can ask and see if we're allowed to completely share the recipes or not. I mean, I told you about what the caramelized soup was, the caramelized parsnip soup, because I mean that was just so basic.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but okay. I can inquire and find out, because if we can, I would love to be able to share these recipes. I could do a blog post and share the recipes.
Okay, well, let's finish your thing. We'll come back and catch questions.
So anyway, go back to those veggies and show them those veggies again.
Okay, so we're cooking.
And look at all that color. It's just, they were just so vibrant and so amazing. And we did not peel the carrots. Nothing was peeled. Everything was just washed really well. And I used a vegetable brush, and then Chef Jamie suggested using a kitchen towel to just wipe them down, just so that any little grit or anything that was in any of the crevices, that you would be able to get all of that out. But he's like, yeah, we don't peel anything. Leave the peel on. Lots of nutrients and flavor in that peeling. Okay, so the next slide.
Okay, something different's going on here.
Okay, so this was just toasting the flour, also done in the same skillet. So I just took the skillet that I had done the root vegetables in and just wiped it out. And so it was a dry skillet. You want it to be absolutely dry. And this technique, you could do this in your nonstick cookware. And so they called for just, white flour, but I'm gluten-free, so I used just a little bit of oat flour instead. And so you just brown it, and that just gives it a toasty flavor and kind of takes away that raw flavor that just raw flour has. And then it was the base for thickening, so we could make a kind of like a gravy with it. So I took that, toasted it, and then I added some low sodium vegetable stock to it. So let's look at the next video, and added that to it. And you could have added salt if you wanted to. And then I just added black pepper, and then it had micro thyme. That is micro thyme. And the beautiful thing about it, so it was grown like a microgreen, and when you buy fresh thyme, you know how it has a very woody stem, and you have to very carefully and painfully take all of the little thyme leaves off. Well, with this, you don't have to do that. You just chop it up and throw it all right in the pot. And it had incredible flavor. and it was so easy to use. So we'll have to look into growing micro thyme, and it was beautiful. So, and then that, I just used a wire whisk to whisk that all together, and of course it started to thicken. So we'll go to the next slide. And so then you could either finish off the carrot pot roast on top of the stove, or you could put it in the oven. And I chose to put it in the oven because then I didn't have to worry about regulating the heat. And Chef Jamie did say that his preference was to put it in the oven, but you could do the stovetop. So this was my, I think it's my Le Creuset pot, and I think it's like a 6.5 quart pot, and so it's an enamel coated cast iron pot, so it's really heavy. So just my oven was set to 350 degrees. The green in there are the leeks, and so I just put all of those browned vegetables in there, and then next slide, poured that gravy that I made over the top of them, put the lid on, and put it in 350 degree preheated oven, and just let it sit in there for about 40 minutes. And so then it was so good, so good. And it came out, you know, the gravy thickened up, and it flavored the vegetables, and the vegetables flavored the stew, and oh, it was fantastic.
And those, I have to say, those parsnips were so...
There wasn't parsnips in there, it was carrots.
That was all carrots. Mm-hmm. They were sweet.
Different kinds of carrots.
They were sweet.
Mm-hmm. But you could use parsnips.
Yeah.
You could have used parsnips.
Okay.
Absolutely. So then the next slide.
Okay.
It was just so delicious, you guys. Randy, Tiffany, and Jesse, I wish you had been here to share this meal with us. And so then we did the, I shouldn't say we, it was me. He was upstairs working while I was down here having just like a cooking fest.
Emphasis on working.
Yeah, you were working. I said you were working. He was working. And so then I made the braised kale. And I took the liberty to go ahead and saute some onion, some red onion, and some mushroom, just because I knew we like that along with all the different types of kale. And at the garden that this came from, they don't grow mushrooms. Otherwise, I think they would have included mushrooms, because mushrooms were just a really nice fit with this. So I just sauteed some onions and mushrooms without any liquid, portobello mushrooms, in my scan pan, S-C-A-N pan. And I know, but I have to look at the picture every once in a while, Tom. He's telling me to look at the camera. But I have to look at what I made so I can remember what I did and tell you about it. And just a little bit, I put just a little bit of the low sodium broth, vegetable broth, in the pot, and some black pepper, and some of Dylan's, what's his salt-free spice called?
Magical stardust.
Stardust. Tom calls it magical stardust. Some stardust from Well Your World seasoning in there, and then just added that great big bowl of kale that we had shown you. I just roughly chopped that and then threw everything in there, and then put the lid on it and just let it steam. And then we added a little bit of vinegar to it, and then you could add hot sauce to it as well. But I just did just plain regular balsamic vinegar to it, and that was great.
Call the medics out for Jessie. She's having heart palpitations.
Is she having?
Looking at the food.
I tell you what.
Easy.
Everything was absolutely amazing. It blew me away. Okay.
Okay, what's next?
Next slide, darling.
Okay.
You'll get to it.
Who are these people?
Who are those people? Okay, and I haven't shown you dessert yet, but we will show you dessert at the end, because I forgot to take pictures of the dessert while I was making it. Okay, so we set up in the dining room. We had candlelight. It was just, we got dressed up for it to make it a special occasion, because I'm telling you, after I made this meal, it was like, you know, this is one special meal. This is fine dining at home. And so next slide. And there you can see everything's there except for the dessert. And oh, it was just heavenly. Next slide.
You know, and that's the special silverware for company even.
It is. Did you feel like really honored?
Yeah. There's a single place setting.
Okay, there's a single place setting of it. This was so delicious. So we started with the great big salad. So there you can see the beet blush there in the middle, and then each of the beets was cut into 6 pieces and then put on top of the salad. And all of those lettuce greens were absolutely amazing. The flavor was incredible. And Chef Jamie said it really does not need dressing. Just let the beets be your flavoring. And he said you can chill the beets, but he prefers them to be hot and served with the cold greens. But next slide. We did just use a little bit, like maybe like 2 teaspoons each of the California balsamic, Simply Lemon balsamic, and that was just enough, because you know you didn't want to detract from the flavor of the beets and the greens, and so just a little drizzle of the lemon balsamic was like perfection.
Anthea's asking about the timing of all this to have it to come together, since you were the lead chef.
So what they recommended, I started cooking before they put the videos up to watch. So I had started making things. And what they said was there was supposed to be a timeline, was supposed to come with the menu, but I did not get a timeline. And so we ended up having to reheat the soup, because I made the salad first and the beets, and then I made the soup. But of course, by the time that the pot roast was done, then you know the soup was like room temperature. So we did have to heat up the soup, but everything else was, you know, turned out perfect. So what I could have done if I'd had the time the day before is I could have done like the browning of the vegetables. I could have cooked the beets. I could have made the soup the day before and then just reheated it, and I could have made the dessert the day before. So we did have to heat up the soup. Once the pot roast came out, then we just heated up the soup because the salad was ready to go, and I had the dessert was chilling. So, okay, next video. So we ate that salad first. And it was a monster salad, and we still have tons of greens left over. And then we had that incredible parsnip soup with the little microgreens on top, and then the braised kale. And Chef Jamie said you could serve the stew and the braised kale on the plate together, but he preferred them to be served separately, so that's what I did. And then there is that stew, and you can see how thick and scrumptious that the gravy was, and it had so much flavor, even though it had very few ingredients in it, and it was just so amazing. And it had the micro thyme was on top of that. And then here is dessert. OMG. So this is the sweet potato mazamorra. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly. So this was made with oven roasted sweet potatoes and unsweetened almond milk and cornstarch And then it called for maple syrup, which of course I used the date syrup, a pinch of salt if you wanted to. And then I didn't use the salt, but I used cinnamon, nutmeg, and cardamom. And then it all just went in the blender, and then it got put into oven-safe dishes and was baked at 350 degrees for about 45 minutes. So it set up kind of like custard. And then he said it's, you know, you can serve it warm or room temperature or chilled, and he preferred it to be served chilled. So I did put it in the refrigerator and I chilled it. And we drizzled a little bit of the date syrup over the top of it. And then I put the edible flowers on top, and it was so beautiful. It was like you didn't want to eat it because it looked like a centerpiece, but we ate it. And it was delicious, like every single bite. In fact, I made a second batch of it with Japanese sweet potatoes, and I think it's even better with the Japanese sweet potatoes.
There's still some more flowers right over there we could put on it. We have more flowers.
Those aren't edible flowers, honey. Sorry. But we need to think about growing some edible flowers, maybe in the AeroGrow, the AeroGarden. And so, so I made another batch of it with Japanese sweet potatoes, and so amazing. Of course, you know, it's white looking, but if I had more edible flowers to put on top, it would be really beautiful. So he said the sweet potato mazamorra was a recipe. He worked with someone who was from El Salvador, and that man's mother would make mazamorra for him and send it with him, and it was made with corn, which I think that sounds very intriguing too. So I want to try that with corn. So use like a pound of corn and 2 cups of almond milk and cornstarch, and make that. So that would be more of a savory kind of a pudding. Oh, and my beets got on. You can see my beet juice on my recipe card got on there because I had all my recipe cards spread out here, and then I started chopping the beets, cutting up the beets. But anyway, it was just a beautiful ending to the meal. And I will tell you that we could not even eat all of our entree. So we ate that big salad, we ate our soup, and remember, these are whole plant foods, so they're very filling. And then when we started on our entrees, we couldn't even finish our entrees because we knew there was dessert, and so we only ate half of our entrees, plus there was like half of what I made in the pot was still there. So you easily could get 2 to 3 meals out of what came in that box. So thank you, Randy, Jesse, and Tiffany. You made our pandemic Valentine's Day super extra special. So we just cannot thank you enough. It was an absolute delight. So what a fun gift.
Okay, so we've got some questions to catch up with.
Okay. So anyway, any questions about the meal?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes, there are.
Okay, I'll try to answer them.
Yeah. Oh, and Gina, thank you. Gina likes my red tie.
Yes, doesn't he look nice? He was like, have I had a tie on since we went on the cruise last year?
Last time I wore a tie was a year ago.
A year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So crazy.
Okay. All right. Evelyn, back in the beginning of this video, after we're done, you must have missed it. There's quite a story on where this meal came from, but it's from the Plant Strong folks on a special Valentine's Day promotion that our moderators arranged for us. So
and so they did they had like a Q&A yesterday too that was live. I tried to get on it and I wasn't able to get on it. I was in the middle of cooking at the time, and they were having trouble with their Zoom call, so I guess they got it squared out and sent out a message about it. But so I watched the replay, and people were asking, would you consider doing this like monthly or quarterly? And Rip said, oh, well, we're glad that you have enjoyed it so much. He said it was a tremendous amount of work to put it together, to coordinate, doing all of these recipes.
The shipments.
And doing the videos and all of that. But they will consider doing more of these. And so I would highly recommend doing it if they offer it again, because I just learned so much. And these recipes were so easy. It was the little techniques of, browning the vegetables and just little things like that added so much flavor. Because, it was very simple ingredients.
What was the dessert called again?
It was called sweet potato mazamorra. So Mazamorra with maple mint and edible flowers. Yeah, it was edible flowers and some fresh mint on top of there as well. So, and he said that the mazamorra is usually traditionally it's made with corn, and it was an El Salvadoran recipe. Did I say that right? But he just took it and switched it over to sweet potato to make it plant strong. And the really cool thing is Chef Jamie, who came up with all of the recipes for this meal, was not vegan. And so he decided, after developing recipes with Rip Esselstyn, he decided, him and his Valentine, he said, decided to do a 30-day vegan challenge. And so for the month of February, they are eating no animal products. And he's trying also to do SOS free, because he said he wants to develop more recipes for special events like this. And he doesn't think that, he thinks in order to do a really great job that he needs to walk the talk and actually do it, so that he can know what it's like to be plant-based and SOS free. So it will be interesting to see what happens after 30 days if him and his partner decide to stick with this way of eating. And he was so passionate in the videos about all of the produce that, it just made you feel like honored that you were going to get to eat these things. Because he was just like, he was talking about the parsnips, for instance, and just how beautiful they are, and the sweetness that they have, and all the different things that he makes ice cream out of them. So he caramelizes them like we did, and then he turns them into ice cream. And so, that got my thoughts to rolling too. Like, I could make that soup, probably freeze it in cubes, and then put it through the Champion juicer and have that come out as soft serve, and I bet it would be amazing. So anyway, he was just so passionate about the vegetables that they grow.
Mary Jo is asking, what do edible flowers taste like?
I don't know. What would you say they taste? Because we didn't eat them separately. We ate them with the mazamorra. So they had
a texture. They were kind of a...
Yeah, they have texture.
They were kind of a crinkly, crunchy texture. So I noticed more of a texture than a flavor coming from them. I think really the big thing is they're beautiful, and they offer pizzazz, and you get to eat them.
Yeah.
Which is
and they have a little bit of flavor.
Novelty.
But most of the flavor was...
You take a bite of that soft pudding, and then you have the crinkle of the flour in there. So that was an interesting culinary sensation.
And mostly they were just like extremely beautiful.
Okay.
So that was fun.
There were a couple of questions. Jesse is reiterating here about could you roast the veggies instead of using cast iron to caramelize them?
Yeah, I think you probably could do that.
A lot of folks got rid of their cast iron. Jesse being one, I think.
Okay.
So,
yeah, you probably could. He said that you could do it on a grill pan. You know, if you have like a panini press or anything like that, anything that you could do it where they won't stick. And I had wondered too, like if you could just air fry them, because you are not cooking them. So let's be clear about that. You are not cooking them when you're doing that. They actually cooked in the oven, and the parsnips did not cook
It's kind of the
when I
equivalent
did
of
that.
searing them.
It's just, yeah, you're kind of searing them. That's, oh, am I over here? I'm talking
We're
to the
over
wrong
here.
camera,
Yeah.
sorry. And so, if I think you could, maybe you could do them under the broiler. Maybe you could do them in the air fryer. Maybe you could do them on a barbecue grill, or a panini press, or like we have the griddler, the Cuisinart griddler. You could probably do that on there. You're just trying to char them a little bit to caramelize the outside of them, and that charring adds a little bit of flavor. Well, actually, it adds quite a bit of flavor.
Gina wants to be Tami and Tom when she grows up. But Colleen has explained to her that you have to pick one. You can't be both.
You guys are hilarious.
Okay, there was a question which I saw as we were going along about iron leaching out of the pans. That concern has been written about by some of the doctors. And if you're cooking in cast iron every single day, day in and day out,
that could be a problem.
Like I used to when I was a kid, you could be getting too much iron. This is the first time we've had the cast iron out in a couple of years, and so we're not.
Well, since about 2013.
So we're not leaching too much iron into our diet. But this is a fun technique to learn to get that flavor profile and the appearance of the food that way. So probably we'll repeat it, but yeah, we're not using it so consistently that too much iron is going to be a concern.
Yeah, this is the first time we've used them in 8 years. So Tom was surprised that I still had them in the kitchen. He's like, "Where did you find those?" I was like, "Oh, they were under the cooktop down with all of our cookware."
Yeah, and then there was another.
But I think you could try some of the other techniques we talked about.
There was a question about vegetables, using vegetables instead of the potatoes, the carrots, using other vegetables.
Yeah, I mean, you could use other root vegetables if you wanted to. The thing is, carrots, parsnips, potatoes, sweet potatoes, you would want things that are going to cook at about the same time, and you want things that are going to retain their shape and be firm so that they don't turn to mush when they're in the oven.
Let's see.
What else are people saying? Well, I have questions that were submitted through email.
Yeah, go ahead and jump into those. I think we're caught up right now. The scroll's only going up so high, so I got to check the other screen because it's only letting me go up to a certain point here at the moment. So
well, I want to thank you guys for letting us tell you about that meal, because it was so much fun. I just felt like, we totally can't keep this to ourselves. We need to share this with everyone because it was so amazing. And I just want you to remember how simple our ingredients were that we used, but every single course tasted gourmet. So it was like a meal that you could reproduce and serve to anyone, and they would absolutely love it, or components of it. Okay, so here's some questions. So Lorna wrote to me, and she said that her greatest problem with plant-based cooking is coping with allergies to onion and garlic. Any idea how she can amp it up a little bit without those two powerhouses that she used to use for every entree? She's been using a lot of ginger and horseradish, but needs more. So I do have some ideas for you, and I would say that it really depends on the recipe and what you're making and how you're going to replace the onion or the garlic, because it's used raw, chopped, caramelized. There's lots of different ways that we use those. So a lot of it is going to depend on the recipe. So you can use celery, mushrooms, bell peppers. Can you have chives? I didn't have time to look up before we started today to see if chives are in that same allium family or not. And of course, fresh herbs. Use lots of fresh herbs, dried herbs. So you can also add, you know, like peppers and jalapeno, things that have a lot of flavor to them. And in the dried herbs, I really love celery seed. I don't think people use that enough. It adds a really wonderful flavor. So does black pepper. I was listening to some program, I can't even remember what it was, and a chef was saying that people forget how much flavor black pepper has, and it adds so much to recipes. And that's true. Sometimes the little missing component is some freshly ground black pepper, and it just adds that little bit of something. And paprika and smoked paprika and chipotle chili powder, all of those things are wonderful. If you need heat, you can use the radishes, the horseradish that you've been using, chili peppers, and of course the ginger. Now, if you're using a recipe where it needs to be something crunchy, like in my quinoa black bean, zesty quinoa black bean salad, and you know, and it uses raw red onion, so instead you could use red or green pepper, or you could chop up some carrots or some celery or jicama or some radishes or cucumber, because then it will give you some color. It will also give you crunch. So then for flavor and texture, maybe some fennel, some celery, some carrots, bell peppers, even tomatoes and mushrooms. If it's something where you need the ingredient to be more sweet, like if the recipe calls for caramelizing onions, then you could caramelize carrots or sweet potato or winter squash, because those are very sweet. You could caramelize some rutabagas or parsnips, like I was showing in what we did on our Valentine's meal, and those could be caramelized. And the sweet potato and the winter squash, if you just oven roast those, oh my goodness, they have so much flavor, and that would give you at least a sweet component in a recipe. And then I was going to show you, this was a gift from my girlfriend Judy years ago. This is the Flavor Bible, and they actually have one that is vegetarian, and so I wasn't eating this way at the time that she gave this to me, but there is one. We have it on our Amazon store. There's a link below in the show notes for our Amazon store, and we have the vegetarian Flavor Bible posted there. And what this is, it tells you in here what flavors, what seasonings go best with different types of foods. And so, you know, from all kinds of things. And so this might give you a lot of really good ideas on, you know, how to boost the flavor in different things. So, but check out the vegetarian one. So I hope that helps you. But, you know, I love onions and garlic, but there's still so many things that you can use and still get a tremendous amount of flavor. Okay, so then Joyce wrote, and she said, I've been wondering the reason behind no flour. Is it largely wheat flour because of the gluten, or does it trigger those who have food addiction? How much influence does bread have relative to weight gain? Well, you know, that's going to be individual from person to person. So that's going to depend on, you know, how much bread are you eating, for one thing. But here's a great thing. Yesterday on the Truth About Weight Loss Summit that Chef AJ is doing with Toby from Better Life Summits, the very first speaker was Dr. Joan Iflin, and she is a food addiction specialist. She herself was a food addict, and she has studied it, and she's written a number of papers about it. She has written books about it, and she was talking about just this, because Chef AJ asked her about gluten and flour. And so I listened to it twice so that I could write down, capture what she had to say. So she said that flour with gluten is a double whammy. It is because it is absorbed quickly. Anytime you take the cell wall of a grain to make flour, so that cell wall has been cut, because they take the wheat grain and cut it, means that there is going to be a glucose high, because it is absorbed into your bloodstream so much faster than if it was a whole grain. Then you get an insulin release, followed by a glucose crash, and then you get an adrenaline release. So she said that flour that has been cut, where the cell has been cut, activates serotonin pathways. And the flour in the United States has a higher level of gluten, even higher than the flour in Europe and in the Middle East. And that's because we have messed with the seeds. We've messed with how the flour is grown, or the grain is grown. So gluten contains gluteal morphines, and it attaches to the opiate pathways in our brain. It is addictive and it is mood altering. She said that there have been some studies where they have taken groups of people and they have taken them off of gluten, and then they test them afterwards and see how they're doing. And some people, they find out, do have a gluten sensitivity or celiac disease. And then when they followed these people over a long period of time and checked back up with them, they discovered that even the people who did not have a gluten sensitivity or who did not have celiac disease reported that they were still off of gluten. And when asked why, they said, because I feel so much better. I can think more clearly and I just feel better without the gluten. So she said that, so isn't that interesting, first of all? And because it is so addictive, because it has those gluteal morphines, that makes it very addictive to us, because we have such a huge response to it that our brain says, oh, that is so good. So think about how when you used to go to an Italian restaurant and they put that warm bread on the table, and you can't eat just one piece, right? Everybody eats it until it's gone, and then when the waiter comes and says, do you want more? Yes, please, bring it on. And we just keep eating it. Well, that helps explain why, right? Because our brain just goes, oh my gosh, that gave us such a rush, let's have more. So then Chef AJ asked her about alternate flours that don't have gluten. Do we get the same reaction from those? And she said that even if it doesn't have gluten in it, once the grain is cut into, the cell has been cut, it does get absorbed into our system quicker than it would. So for instance, oat groats. If we eat oat groats, just cook them with water and eat them, it's going to take a really long time for those to be metabolized. And so the amount of glucose they cause in our bloodstream is going to be slow and moderate, because it's going to take our body a while to break it down. So we're not going to get that big rush where she talked about, having a glucose high and an insulin release, and then a glucose crash, and then an adrenaline release. But she said what happens is there's something that's called messaging and cueing. And so you still could have an addictive response because of the associative cueing. So let's say you take something, you take your rolled oats and you grind those and turn those into a flour, and you make a pretty healthy cookie or bar or some sort of a bread or some kind of a treat out of those. Because that's similar to something that you used to eat that did have maybe gluten and sugar and all those things in it, the cueing of that, the fact that it's similar to cookies or to bread or bars or whatever, could be enough to trigger an addictive response to you. So it's going to kind of depend on individual to individual. I know I do grind up some oats into oat flour, and I make some things out of those, and they don't seem to cause cravings or addictive behavior for me. But I know that a lot of people leave me comments on Facebook or send me an email and say, you know, that looks delicious, but I could never make it because I would not be able to eat one and, you know, walk away. I would end up eating the whole pan of those. So you kind of have to look at, you know, who you are and how things work with you. She did also, oh, there was another point I was going to make, and now I lost what I was going to say. Oh, she said that in laboratory studies using rats, that the scientists that have done those studies say that, you know, you can pretty much probably turn any animal into an addict if you give them enough processed food. So, you know, there's that one study that they did, and she didn't talk about this yesterday, but I've heard it before, where they took a group of rats and they took them off their little rat pellet food and they gave them junk food. And they loved it. They loved the junk food. And then when they took the junk food away and gave them back their rat food, they went like on a hunger strike for weeks. I think it was 3 weeks. Do you remember how long it was, Tom? It was like 2 or 3 weeks.
That's why I remember 14 days stuck in my head. I remember the study.
2 weeks. Yeah, so they went on a hunger strike. They refused to eat the rat pellets after they had been exposed to...
They have a lot of fat reserves, so...
They have a lot of fat reserves, yeah. And so, you know, they just held out because they thought we're going to wait until they give us that junk food again, because that's how addictive the junk food is. So, so there, you know, some people just seem to be more easily addicted, and some people aren't. It's just like how some people can have one drink of alcohol or a sip or two and they're done, and other people, you know, cannot moderate it. So as far as going, like, can it lead to weight gain? Well, if it's addictive and we have a hard time to moderate it, then, you know, certainly we're going to overeat on it. Plus, if you're looking at the calorie density chart, you'll see that, you know, bread is up high. It's, you know, I think about 12 or 1400 calories per pound, but whole grains are down around 400 and 500 calories per pound. And so once you have processed the grain, once you have cut it and taken it from a whole grain into a white powder, then you have increased the calorie density of it, you know, 3-4 times. And so then it's going to take a lot more of that small processed flour to fill you up than it would if you left it as a whole grain. And usually we're taking those whole grains and we're actually cooking them in water, which causes them to expand, which reduces the calorie density of it. And that's why the whole grains are so filling. Plus, the flour usually contains oil, salt, and sugar. And so then here we have the whole trifecta then of addictive substances. So I hope that helps you with the flour question. Yes, Tom?
Before you go to your next printed one, let's grab a couple off the chat feed here.
Okay.
There was one.
I just wanted to say, and Joan talked about how, you know, when a lot of people, when they are addicted to these substances, they don't even realize that they don't actually feel good. They don't realize that they could feel differently until after they get rid of the substances. And that was the case for her. She had been a food addict her entire life, and then, you know, when she figured out what she needed to do, about 3 or 4 days into it, she was working at her desk and she realized it was noon and she hadn't thought about food all morning. And that was the first time in her life that she could remember that happening.
I remember going through the phase of not thinking about food, instead of always thinking about being fearful about where my next meal was, because I used to be hypoglycemic. And if I didn't get my food, I would get a headache. I'd get cranky first, then I'd get the headache, and then I'd get a migraine, and then I'd lose the day. So that went away going plant-based. So
Because your blood sugar became stable.
well, at least something in me is stable.
Now, be nice.
Okay,
Be
question.
Nice. Okay.
Early on in the chat feed, Fran was asking, and we do get this question, and I don't exactly remember the correct answer. But
Okay.
when you're eating a lot of greens and cooking the greens, how are you getting, but we're not putting nuts and seeds in there, fats, but how are we getting the fat-soluble nutrients out of those greens?
Yeah, you don't really have to worry about that. So Dr. Esselstyn has his patients eat 6 fistfuls of dark leafy greens a day, and he's dealing with heart patients, and so they are strictly no oil. And oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong camera. And mostly no nuts either, because he just doesn't want them to have the fat. So I know that, like, Dr. Greger oftentimes says, you know, just eat a little more. Like when somebody says, well, what if you lose nutrients cooking broccoli this way? And he says, well, then, you know, eat a little more broccoli then to make up for it. So, so I don't think that's anything that you really have to worry about, but that would be a good question to ask one of the plant-based doctors.
Okay, Stephanie Spear has a question going back to December of 2019 video where you made the crispy chickpeas. You mentioned that after storing them for a while, they no longer are crunchy.
Yes.
Have you discovered since then a way to storage them
No.
or hold them? So you make them and then eat
No,
them fairly
sometimes what
promptly.
I'll do is I'll put them in the pantry without a lid on the container, because it seems like putting the lid on the container is what allows them to lose their crunch. But what you could do is just throw them back in the air fryer for a little bit.
For just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Should do that.
Or heat up a nonstick skillet on the stovetop and throw them in there and crisp them up a little bit too.
Yeah.
But I don't mind them even if they've lost their crunch.
Okay, I've got a couple more, then I'll be caught up and you
Yeah,
can.
perfect.
Evelyn was asking about getting the recipes. That'll need to come from the website. The recipes were part of a purchased meal
Yeah, we have to
plan.
find out.
So
We don't know if we're allowed to share them or not.
And then Tiffany had the idea that we should send a link to our basically review of this to Plant Strong and let them see the results we got on our end of things here.
Yeah.
And so Tiffany,
Well, I did post, I posted about this video on Instagram, and I did tag Rip Esselstyn and the Chef's Garden. I tagged them in my post on there, so hopefully they will see it.
Yeah, we should drop them a little email.
But yeah, we could drop them a little email.
Okay,
That's
and
a good
then,
idea.
Susan, thank you so much for the super chat. That's very kind of you.
Nice. Thank you, Susan.
Okay.
I've got a couple things here.
You do?
Yeah, so Jeff wrote to me, and he said during the video for the mushroom spinach lasagna, this camera, I wanted to know if anybody knew of any store-bought pasta sauces that come without sugar or oil, and he said that at Aldi's, they have a Simply Nature brand that is organic and has no sugar or oil, and it's a very reasonable price. So I don't know if it has sodium or not, and we don't have Aldi's where we live, so I'm wondering if anyone watching is familiar with the Simply Nature brand of marinara sauce at Aldi's, and I'm just curious as to the sodium content in that. But thank you so much, Jeff, for writing to us about that. And then I have another one. Grace wanted to know if we have any tips for cleaning mushrooms. Is there a quick and easy way? She recently made Brittany Giroudi, which if you haven't watched Brittany's channel, the Giroudi family, you need to watch her channel as well. She's also plant-based. She made her creamy mushroom soup, and she made a quadruple batch to freeze it, and it took forever to clean the mushrooms. So they say that you should not use water to clean the mushrooms because, you know, the mushrooms are extremely porous, and so they absorb any liquid that goes on them. And so the only way I know of washing them is to, use either a soft little brush on them to knock anything off that's on them, or a towel. And so unfortunately, I think you kind of have to do it one at a time, unless somebody else knows a better way, and you can share that with us in the chat, if you would, please.
I may have missed the context here, but Jesse is mentioning that Dylan at Well Your World has a marinara sauce now also.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So Well Your World, we have a link. We actually are affiliates of his, and he has 2 sauces, and they are delicious. So, and they are SOS free, salt, oil, and sugar free. But don't worry, they are packed with flavor, because Dylan really likes a lot of flavor, and so all of his products are amazing. And he has a whole line of SOS free products, and we have a link in the show notes for you to go to. Also, on our blog, you guys, if you go to our shop page, are you able to show them how to go to the blog and use the shop page?
I don't know that we're going to have time for that today.
So if you go to nutmegnotebook.com,
oh, look.
Up at the top of the page are some different tabs that you can click on. If you click on the shop page, then it takes you to a page where we have put all of our affiliate links. So our Amazon store link is there. The Beet Boost, which I drink here, is there, and we have a discount code. The Well Your World link is there. Mealthy, Mama Says, we have all of our links are there, because people are always writing to us and saying, I can't find the link to Holland Bowl.
Here it is. I found it.
Okay, can you show it? Can you share?
Well, it's stuck on the...
No, I was going to see if you could go to the blog and show them the shop page on the blog.
Oh, okay.
So Tom's looking to see if he can do that.
Yeah, it's not switching over
Oh,
here.
it's not. Okay.
No.
Well, that's okay, honey. We can do it another time if it's better to do it another time. So, and then the other question we had, Tom, was if you could demonstrate how to use the knife sharpener.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Chef AJ's Truth About Weight Loss.
Yes.
Deepak had a question here earlier. I'm trying to access AJ's symposium. I get a message that you'll get an email. I've checked my spam, etc., and I've not received the email. Tried 8 times. So there's an email address that you send people to.
Yeah, you have to go to the Better Life Summit's support.
Yeah.
So if you go
and they're
to...
monitoring that very... I don't know. Well, yeah, they're monitoring that very closely right now, the support page.
Yeah, so I found it. I just Googled Better Life Summits, and I went to the page, and then on that page, I found a place where you can email them for support. Mm-hmm. And then there was like a drop-down menu there, like I'm trying to purchase something and I can't log in, and there were various different things. And so that's where you need to go, because I was just a guest speaker for the Better Life Summit, and so we don't have anything to do with the production of it.
But it is a live seminar this week, so
yes.
They're really staying on top of those communications.
They are.
So
and they want you to be able to access it. So just Google Better Life Summits, and then on that page, I can't remember where I clicked, but like the contact me or something like that, I clicked on, and I was able to find an email address for support. And so just write to them and tell them what's happening. So we've had, I think 3 people have written to us to say that they've had trouble accessing it. So I'm sorry that that's happening, because it is a really wonderful summit. My interview and my cooking demo will be on next Sunday, a week from today. And so I don't know what time that it's airing, but I think that I'm the last one. I told Chef AJ she saved the best for last, but not really, but I had to tease her. So I hope you guys will be able to watch it. So I discuss my journey, I do a cooking demo, and my cooking demo went really fast. And so then it was just kind of a magical interchange.
Well, you guys got into kind of
with Chef AJ.
They just got into a conversation with each other, which was more like two friends talking together instead of so much of a formal interview. And so then they just have to watch it. The communication started to flow, and so it was a great conversation.
It was. It was just like, you know, two girlfriends having a conversation.
Kevin relaxed and bared her soul to Chef AJ, and you get to see it live.
Are you not on screen? I don't know if you're on screen.
I'm off screen.
You were talking
to the wrong camera.
Yeah, it's okay.
My moderators didn't give me a bat over the head to say that I was speaking off camera.
Okay. Anyway, we just kind of it was kind of a magical conversation that we had, so and very heartfelt. So I hope you guys will be able to watch it next Sunday.
Okay. Do you have any more questions? I think we're pretty well wrapped up at this point.
Yeah, the only thing was that Julie Adams wanted to know if you could demonstrate how to use the knife sharpener.
Oh, okay. I can grab that.
So you can do that.
You know, I'm going to probably just do a real dedicated short on that.
Yeah, you need to. But you can show her right now.
And I assume we're talking about the Mezzaluna knife?
I don't know. She didn't say.
Okay.
So...
well, that's why I got...
Oh, okay. So somebody posted hello@betterlifesummits.com.
Yes.
So you could use that. The one I found was a little bit different than that, but I think that would work just right to them, because Toby is he's the guy that runs all of the behind the scenes on that. So he should get it and be able to help you.
Okay, just real short on this. This is the sharpener, economy sharpener I put on our website. I think it was $14 or $15 or $12. I don't recall. Because my conventional stones and the steel that we use for the long knives don't really work with this salad chopping Mezzaluna blade that comes with the Holland bowls. And so this is just a carbon steel wedge, and you just put this down and watch your knee, and you can just this is the safety glove that comes with it. The reason I bought this is because it has a handle. On my old one, you had to like hold this part like this, and then this just does not look like a good idea. So, and just a few strokes through this, just following the rotation through there, it's amazing how quickly and it sharpens up. And so right away, I mean, it's
sharp.
It's ready to go for quite a few more salads with just that. There's a little ceramic stone here if you want to be fancy and be really fine and give it a final dress. So,
and it's not just for the Mezzaluna. This works for all the knives. Yeah,
except for the long knives, I use the steel, and I do the old swish, swish, swish thing.
Can we put that away? You're scaring me.
Okay, so Amazon wants me to do a short video on these things to drop on the Amazon site. So I'll be kind of catching up with some of this gadget stuff as we move forward.
Okay, so while you were doing that, I saw that Janet put in the chat that Russ Camp said that the Simply Nature brand of marinara has 470 grams of sodium per serving.
Right here. Yeah.
Milligrams. Is it milligrams per serving?
Yes.
Okay.
Aldi has 475 milligrams per serving.
But if you want to make your own, I have a wonderful SOS-free recipe. It's very inexpensive and super easy to make, and it is delicious for marinara.
Yeah, Kaki Blue's got that too, 490 milligrams, Simply Nature marinara.
Okay.
So that's why you make your own, because you're getting away from all that.
Yeah, because that's actually a lot of sodium.
Dylan's is down to almost nothing.
Yeah, because the rule of thumb is the milligrams of sodium, that number should not exceed the milligrams of...
The number of calories.
Or the number of calories per serving. So that's, where we want to try to keep things at. So let's see. Jessie said she dropped her bat on her foot. Well, what were you doing with your bat, I have to ask?
She keeps it close in case anybody gets out of line. Just like...
Okay, in contrast, Jessie says that Dylan's marinara has 15 milligrams of salt per serving. So, and she says, my recipe is great. Thank you. But if you don't have time or don't want to, by all means, buy Dylan's because it's really good.
Oh,
yes.
let's talk about Jake and Michelle. Tiffany just brought this up. I put on the YouTube community, and you know what? You guys can help us out here.
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure what that does. It's like Facebook, except it's inside YouTube, and so I put the Shark Tank announcement in today's YouTube community post and made a little sentence to go with it because next Friday, Jake and Michelle that we had live on right here on this show a number of weeks ago, we had the live interview with them. They got invited onto the show. We saw just a half a second preview of them from Friday night's show because theirs is next week, and they were being tough on them. They were getting after Michelle about something, and Jake had a serious look on his face. But
but you don't know that. You don't know that because of the editing. They didn't show like the guy
nothing before or after. No,
they didn't show
They're
who
just
was
trying
saying
to
it.
make it look intense.
Yeah.
And so it looked intense.
It looked intense, but we don't know.
Oh my gosh! So we don't know what's happening. And they had sent us the cookie dough and one other, the half cup.
Yeah. Otherwise, we've bought all of our own.
we needed to get an update out, because we are affiliates of Supercubes, and this morning's video, it goes out as a sponsored video because we are affiliates of Supercubes, but we wanted to show those two new products and do an update from when we had them on, and also have a dedicated product review for just that product, in 17 minutes instead of an hour and 17 minutes.
Yeah, so it'll depend on what time zone, where you live, what time that it airs, because like in California, everything airs about an hour later than it does like in the
Midwest. If the East Coast gets to the 8, or Central or Eastern, then we see it at 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So it's on like at 8 o'clock, I think, here, 8 or 9 o'clock. But you'll have to check your local. Like you can Google that and find out what time it's going to air. I want you to read what Jesse said about the bat.
This was the bat that I might have used otherwise to let Tom know that he was talking to the wrong camera.
It's a riot.
Okay, if I wasn't wrong, then how could Tammy be right?
You're something.
Somebody's got to be wrong.
Yes.
Okay, we're losing juice.
Yeah. So anyway, if you, how do you know we're losing juice?
One of the mics is cracking and buzzing.
Oh, okay. Good thing you can hear that. Is it me? Maybe it's mine. Sometimes mine
your
does.
hair was touching it.
That could
you were
be.
leaning forward and getting hair on it.
Okay. So hopefully that'll take care of it. We did the super cubes. We love the super cubes, you guys. They are so amazing. And we did a blog post and a video about them. So do check that out.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Oh, I want to see what somebody said. Susan Johnson says, I'm loving the black cumin seed and the grinder recommended by you. Oh, thank you. We love that too. That is so good. The Nigella sativa. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's
Moderators,
Day.
Thank you for moderating. Jesse, keep your bat to yourself. Keep it off my toes.
Thank you so much, Jesse, Randy, and Tiffany for making
that wonderful meal.
Yeah, for making this weekend so special. And thank you for all you do for the community in the chat. As we always say, we cannot do this without you. So we appreciate you guys. We appreciate everyone who shows up Sunday after Sunday to watch with us. You guys just make it all worthwhile. It's so much fun. And it has certainly made the pandemic a lot more tolerable to have this community to look forward to being with on Sunday evenings. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah, it's been our social network.
So we hope that your life is filled with joy and that your heart is filled with love. And we will be here next week. We will be interviewing Glenn Mercer and his wife Joanna, and he is the author of the, I just lost it in my head.
Okay, stop looking at me. That's making static on the mic.
Own Your Health book.
Glenn and Joanna, Own Your Health.
Which I had, and he also wrote 2 other books with Chef AJ and the Mad
And
Cowboy.
some of your recipes are in Own Your Health.
Yes, I have recipes in Own Your Health. So his wife was able to reverse her lupus with a whole food plant-based diet. So they will be on next Sunday to talk about their experiences and showcase the book. So we're super excited about that. And I'll be on Chef AJ's Summit next Sunday. And
then we'll see you here at 4 o'clock later that same day.
yeah, that sounds good. So I'm Tami.
And I'm Tom.
And we help you get healthy and stay healthy, one meal at a time. Hey, did you ask people to give us a thumbs up and to subscribe?
I went like this. If they're watching, they saw it.
Okay, please give us a thumbs up if you would. It helps our ratings here on YouTube. And of course, you can always share this YouTube video in your favorite Facebook groups as well. So have a beautiful week, you guys, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Bye-bye.